They kicked me out of my own dinner. Can you imagine? I paid for the entire banquet, and yet the waiter blocked my way with a polite smile. Yo, sorry, sir, you're not allowed at this table. I froze, holding a small gift bag in my hand. Inside was the watch I'd picked out for my son-in-law, Michael. Across the room, my daughter Emily was raising her champagne glass, laughing like she didn't even see me. Michael sat beside her, brand new suit, smug grin. The waiter leaned closer, whispering so the other guests wouldn't hear. They told me not to let you in. Who told you? I asked, though I already knew. He tilted his chin toward Michael. The clinking of glasses rang sharp in my ears. The smell of steak and garlic butter drifted through the air, rich and heavy. And yet standing there, I felt like the entire restaurant had gone cold. I backed away slowly, careful not to drop the bag. Outside, the street smelled of car exhaust and roasted peanuts from the vendor on the corner. The neon sign above flickered, buzzing like an old flytrap. As I stood on the sidewalk, I caught a glimpse of a couple walking in. The woman whispered, "Isn't that her dad?" The man shrugged, "Guess he's not invited." Their voices stung more than the cold air. I thought to myself, all right, if I'm not welcome at their table, then let's see how long they'll enjoy this dinner without my credit card. Before we continue, hit that subscribe button. It's cheaper than the dinner I wasted money on tonight. And tell me in the comments, what's the most unfair moment when someone shut you out of your own life? Alright, here's chapter 1 of the setup, written in the same clipped, realistic style as the hook. Lots of sensory detail, little conflicts, and the feel of this really happened yesterday. The kettle whistled like it always did, but the handle leaked just enough to burn my thumb when I grabbed it. I cursed under my breath and set it down too fast, spilling water across the counter. The smell of cheap coffee grounds already floated in the kitchen, bitter and sharp. The chair creaked when I sat, one leg shorter than the rest. It rocked under me, as if it wanted to remind me every morning that nothing in this place fit quite right. The wall clock ticked loud in the silence. I glanced at the photo hanging just above the fridge. Emily at 8 years old, missing her 2 front teeth, hugging her mom. My wife had been gone 5 years now. That photo was the only thing that stayed straight in this apartment. I always touched the corner of the frame before sitting down, like it needed to know I was still here. Upstairs, someone dropped something heavy. A thud, then muffled voices arguing. Mr. and Mrs. Patel again. They fought almost every day, and the sound carried straight through the ceiling. I took a sip of the too hot coffee, winced, and muttered, "Morning soundtrack." I checked my phone. It's one unread message from Emily. "Dinner's confirmed. Don't be late. No heart, no smiley face, just plain text." I stared at it a moment too long, wondering if she even wanted me there. The kettle hissed again, steam still puffing from the spout, though I'd already poured my cup. Same old machine, never shutting up when it was supposed to, just like me, I guess. The store lights were too bright, humming above like they were judging me. Rows of shirts, pressed and folded, all tagged with numbers, that made my stomach tighten. I ran my hand across a blue one, smooth cold fabric, price tag higher than I liked. But tonight wasn't about me, it was Emily's night. I wanted to look decent. Not like some old man who didn't belong at his own daughter's table. "Need help, sir?" The clerk appeared out of nowhere, too cheerful. "I'm just looking," I muttered. She held up a striped tie against the shirt. "This one looks sharp." "Maybe too sharp for me," I said. She laughed politely, but I could tell she agreed. I picked out a plain white shirt, safer. At the register, I slid my card. The machine beeped, declined, my ears burned. "Try again," I said quickly. As its second time, it went through. The clerk didn't comment, just handed me the bag. But I caught the way her eyes flicked to me, then away. Outside, the wind smelled of fried food from the cart on the corner. I carried the thin plastic bag like it weighed 100 pounds. Inside, the shirt rustled with each step, as if reminding me how much I'd just spent to not embarrass my own kid. I stopped by the window of a shoe store. Leather polish and rubber soles mixed in the air as the door swung open behind someone. For a second I thought about going in, buying new shoes too. Then I looked down at mine, scuffed, yes, but still holding together. I walked on. The smell hit me before the memory did. Sweet vanilla and burnt sugar. A bakery had just pulled trays from the oven. I stopped, watching a little girl press her nose against the glass. For a second, it was Emily again. Back when she was 8, I'd take her every Saturday to the corner cafe. Sticky tables, cracked vinyl booths, ice cream sundaes dripping faster than she could eat them. She'd grin at me, face smeared with chocolate, and say, "Dad, you make the best Saturdays." I'd always tell her it wasn't me, it was the ice cream. She never believed it. I walked past the bakery window now, catching my reflection. Just me. No little girl tugging at my sleeve. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "Make sure you cover the payment. They said the card should go through before the party starts. No thank you, no love you, just business." I typed back, already taken care of. Then deleted the words, "Don't worry, sweetheart." She didn't need or want them anymore. A bus rolled by, splashing gutter water onto my shoes. I stepped back, muttering. The bag with the shirt swung heavy at my side. Across the street, 2 teenagers laughed at something on their phones. I couldn't help hearing one say, "Imagine your dad tagging along to dinner." Embarrassing. I tightened my grip on the bag and kept walking. The apartment smelled like reheated pizza and bleach from the hallway mop. I dropped the shopping bag on the chair and slid the frozen slice onto a plate. Microwave door slammed too loud, echoing in the tiny kitchen. The TV in the corner hummed with the evening news. Anchor's voice flat, talking about stock markets and traffic accidents. I wasn't listening. The glow lit up the stack of bills on the counter. I sat with the plate, crust too hard, cheese rubbery. Across the table was the same photo of Emily and her mom. The frame leaned slightly. I nudged it back into place. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Michael. "Don't wear anything old. We don't want you to stand out. You understand?" Stand out, like I was a stain on his clean tablecloth. I stared at the text until the screen dimmed, took a bite of the cold pizza, and nearly cracked a tooth. 3 knocks rattled my door. I opened it to find Mrs. Jenkins from down the hall, arms crossed. "Your music is too loud again," she said. "It's not me, ma'am. It's the Patels upstairs." She squinted, not believing me. Well, keep it down anyway. She shuffled away, slippers squeaking. I shut the door, leaned my forehead against it, and whispered, "Yeah, sure. Always me." The microwave beeped behind me. Though I hadn't said anything, like the stupid machine never worked right. Another small reminder that nothing in this place stayed steady. I sat back down, chewing the tasteless crust, thinking, I've always kept quiet, always stepped aside. Maybe that's why they think I don't matter. The restaurant smelled of butter and wine the second I pushed through the glass doors. Too warm inside, chandeliers glowing, piano music somewhere in the corner. I adjusted the collar of my new white shirt, still had the tag crease down the front. The host smiled politely. "Yeah, reservation name? Thompson, private dinner, it's my daughter's birthday." She nodded, checked the list, and waved a waiter over. We walked through the room, tables clinking with silverware, couples laughing too loud. My shoes tapped against the tile, echoing louder than I wanted. I saw the table already set, white cloth, champagne bottles sweating in ice, Emily's laugh floating above the chatter. But before I could step closer, the waiter stopped, raising his hand like a traffic cop. "I'm sorry, sir, you're not allowed at this table." I blinked. "What?" He leaned closer, lowering his voice. "They asked me not to seat you." The hum of the piano carried on. Someone popped a cork in the distance. For me, everything went silent. I gripped the gift bag tighter, plastic handles cutting into my fingers. "Who asked you?" The waiter hesitated, then flicked his eyes toward the man at the table. "Michael, my son-in-law." The waiter shifted uncomfortably, like he hated being stuck in the middle, but he didn't move. I looked past him. Emily was right there, laughing at something Michael whispered in her ear. She glanced toward me for half a second, then turned her head away like I was a stranger off the street. "Emily," I called softly. My voice barely carried over the clinking glasses. She heard me. I know she did. She just lifted her glass higher, eyes fixed on the candles in front of her. Michael leaned back in his chair, one arm draped over her shoulder. He gave me that smirk, the one I'd seen too many times. Then he snapped his fingers at the waiter like I was some problem with the service. Sir, please, the waiter murmured again. I can't let you through. A couple at the next table whispered. The woman asked, Isn't that her father? The man shook his head. If he was, he'd be sitting down, wouldn't he? My ears burned. The smell of steak and garlic butter turned sour in my throat. I tried again, stepping forward. The waiter gently blocked me with his arm. Michael raised his voice now so everyone nearby could hear. He's not invited. We told you already. Chairs scraped, heads turned. I saw Emily's cheeks flush, but she didn't open her mouth. Not one word in my defense. I stood there holding the gift bag like a fool. The room was too bright, too hot, every laugh stabbing deeper. For a second I thought the floor might give out beneath me. Then I turned, walked back past the host stand, out through the glass doors. The neon sign buzzed overhead, mocking. My reflection in the window looked like a man who no longer belonged anywhere. The door of the restaurant shut behind me with a hiss, and the sound of laughter was cut off like a switch. Out here the air was colder, sharp with car exhaust, and the salty grease drifting from a food cart at the corner. I stood on the sidewalk, clutching the gift bag tighter than I meant to. The plastic handles dug into my palm, sticky with sweat. A cab splashed through a puddle, dirty water jumping onto my shoes. I didn't even step back. I just stared at the wet leather, the scuffs darker now. Across the street, a neon beer sign flickered, buzzing loud like a trapped fly. I walked a few steps and sat down on a metal bench bolted to the sidewalk. The paint was chipped, the seat cold through my pants. Beside me was a trash can that smelled of stale fries and cigarettes. A man tossed in an empty cup, glanced at me, then hurried off. I set the bag on my knees and opened it halfway. The watch box gleamed under the streetlight, perfect and polished. I'd picked it out 2 weeks ago, trying to imagine Michael actually thanking me. Now it just looked ridiculous, like I was some old fool handing gold to the man who shoved me out of my own family dinner. 2 women passed by, heels clacking against the pavement. One leaned to the other and whispered, not quietly enough, "Isn't that the guy they just threw out?" They both laughed. I kept my eyes down, staring at the sidewalk cracks filled with gum and dirt. My stomach growled, but the thought of food made me sick. The smell of roasted peanuts from the vendor mixed with the sour stink of garbage. I pulled the collar of my new shirt higher, though it was already warm, and thought, I bought this just to look presentable, and still I wasn't good enough to sit at her table. The traffic light clicked green. Cars rolled by, their headlights sweeping across my face like spotlights. I felt exposed, like the whole city had seen what happened inside. I gripped the bag harder, wishing I could vanish right there into the bench. My phone buzzed. For a heartbeat, I thought, maybe Emily? Maybe she'd stepped outside, realized how cruel it was. But no, just a promotion from the phone company. Unlimited data, special offer. I laughed once, sharp and bitter, and stuffed the phone back in my pocket. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, and whispered to no one, I paid for it all. Every plate, every glass, and still I'm the one eating scraps out here. The night wind carried the faint notes of the piano still playing inside the restaurant, the same melody I'd heard before they told me I wasn't welcome. For a second I imagined walking back in, throwing the watch down on the table, shouting at Michael, at Emily. But the thought faded. My chest felt hollow. All I had left was the streetlight humming above me and the sour taste of humiliation. The bus smelled of diesel and wet coats. I dropped a couple of crumpled bills into the box and shuffled down the aisle. Every seat seemed taken by someone younger, louder, more alive than me. A group of college kids laughed over a phone screen, one of them balancing a greasy bag of fries on his lap. The salt and vinegar stung my nose. I found a spot by the window, pressed against the cold glass. My reflection looked older than I felt, lines deeper, eyes smaller. I tugged at the collar of the new shirt, but it still felt too stiff, like I was playing dress up in someone else's skin. The bus jerked forward, engine growling. My gift bag slid off my lap, the watch box thumping inside. I caught it too late. One of the kids snickered. Careful, Grandpa, don't lose your lunch. His friends laughed. I didn't answer. The city rolled past in streaks of neon and shadow. Restaurants lit up with warm glow. People clinking glasses inside. Every window showed a family, a couple, someone who belonged. I watched like I was staring into a world that no longer had a seat for me. Behind me, a man argued on the phone, voice loud enough for the whole bus. I told you, I'm not paying twice, that's on you. His anger buzzed in my ear, mixing with the rumble of the wheels. The driver glanced in the rearview mirror. Long night, huh? He asked, half smiling. Yeah, I said. My voice cracked. That was all. At the next stop, more people climbed in. Perfume, rain, sweat. The air thickened. Someone brushed past my shoulder without a word. I gripped the gift bag tighter, pressing it against my chest like it was the last piece of proof I still mattered. Outside, the rain started. Drops streaked the window, blurring the city lights into smears of red and yellow. I thought of Emily at 8 years old, eating ice cream sundaes, telling me I made the best Saturdays. The memory felt like it belonged to someone else's life. The bus jolted again. I closed my eyes and let the sound of the engine drown everything. For a moment, I wished it would never stop, just carry me past every station until there was nowhere left to go. The lock stuck the way it always did. I jiggled the key twice before the door finally gave. The apartment greeted me with silence, heavy and stale. No smell of dinner, no voices, just the faint trace of bleach from the hallway cleaner still clinging to the air. I kicked my shoes off, and the left one caught on the frayed edge of the rug. Nearly tripped. The light switch clicked, and the ceiling lamp blinked 3 times before it held steady. Too bright. It made the kitchen tiles look dirtier than they were, the crack across the counter sharper. I dropped the shopping bag on the chair, then set the gift bag on the table. The plastic crinkled loud in the empty room. For a while I just stood there staring at it. Finally I pulled the watch box out. Black velvet, silver trim, shiny like it belonged in some jewelry ad. I turned it in my hands, the glass face catching the harsh light. I imagined Michael opening it, pretending to be grateful while smirking behind his teeth. The thought soured in my stomach. I placed the box back down, harder than I meant to. The TV remote lay crooked on the couch. I clicked it on. Bright commercials filled the room, a smiling family around a perfect dinner table, golden turkey, candles, children laughing. My thumb froze over the buttons. I clicked it off again. The screen went black, reflecting just me hunched at the table with nothing but a gift nobody wanted. The fridge hummed, uneven, then clicked silent. In that pause, I could hear the neighbor's television through the wall, some canned laughter from a sitcom. The audience roared at a joke I couldn't hear. I sat there stone-faced, listening like I was on the outside of a party I'd never be invited to. I leaned back, chair creaking. My eyes wandered to the photo above the counter. Emily, 8 years old, her cheeks sticky with chocolate, hugging her mother. I whispered to the frame, "You'd have known what to say tonight. You'd have made her see me." My chest ached. I rubbed my temples, but the heaviness stayed. The box with the watch glinted back at me, as if mocking. I pushed it away across the table until it hit the salt shaker and stopped. The lamp overhead buzzed faintly. I reached up, flicked it off, and sat in the dark. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I stared at the cracked corner of the screen, the same crack I'd been meaning to fix for months. Emily's name sat at the top of my contacts, right above Mom. I never deleted that one. Couldn't. I hit call. The dial tone buzzed in my ear, each ring dragging longer than the last. I held my breath, waiting for her voice, any voice. Then, click, the line cut off. No answer. Just silence. I tried again. This time it went straight to voicemail. Emily's recorded voice played, flat and impatient. "Leave a message." That was it. No hi, no thanks for calling. I froze, phone pressed to my ear, listening to nothing. Then the beep came, sharp and final. Emily, I started, my throat dry. It's me, I just. My words broke. I swallowed hard, but nothing came out. Finally, I said, never mind. I hung up. The message saved itself anyway, like proof of my failure. I set the phone on the table. The screen lit up again almost instantly. My heart jumped, but it wasn't her. Just a calendar reminder, bill due tomorrow. I laughed under my breath, a short, bitter sound. Life always remembered me when it needed something. I typed a message. I'm sorry if I embarrassed you. I just wanted to celebrate with you. I stared at the blue bubble on the screen. My thumb hovered over send, then I deleted it. Typed again, dinner's on me, always. Deleted that too. Finally, I put the phone face down, as if that could silence the ache. Through the wall came muffled laughter from the neighbor's TV. A sitcom again. Audience clapping, whistling, cheering. Their joy pressed into my ears until I couldn't take it. I switched my own TV on just to drown it out. The screen glowed, another family smiling over a birthday cake. The irony was cruel. I turned it off, leaving the room in darkness. The only light came from the phone's screen, still glowing faintly. I flipped it over. I didn't want to see it anymore. I leaned forward, elbows digging into the wooden table. The wood felt rough beneath my skin. I whispered, I gave you everything, Emily. Every overtime shift, every broken back, every sleepless night when you were sick. And now, I'm the stranger at your door. My chest burned. I rubbed at it, but the heaviness stayed. The gift box sat there still untouched. I pushed it farther away. The scrape against the table sounded too loud in the silence. I thought about calling her again, begging, explaining. But what would I say? Please let me back in. Please treat me like your father again. Number. The words tasted like ashes before I even spoke them. The room around me seemed to shrink. Every sound magnified, the clock ticking, the pipes groaning, the fridge clicking on again. I felt smaller and smaller, like the apartment was swallowing me whole. I closed my eyes and whispered, if I'm nothing to her, maybe I don't have to keep pretending I'm something. The silence that followed was worse than any answer she could have given me. The kitchen lamp buzzed, flickering once before it steadied. I sat at the table, the same one I'd eaten 1,000 lonely dinners on, staring at the crumpled receipt, half stuck under the salt shaker. The paper was bent, coffee stained on the corner. I pulled it free, flattened it against the wood. There it was, the line with the restaurant's name, the total charge. My signature scrawled across the bottom. My hand had been shaking when I signed it. Not because of the money, but because I wanted the night to be perfect for Emily. Now that same paper felt like a knife. I tapped it with my finger, once, twice, each tap louder. My name, my money, my dinner. I said it out loud, testing how it sounded. The words came out cracked at first, then stronger. This was mine. The fridge hummed, then kicked off. Silence swallowed the room. I pushed my chair back too hard. One leg scraped and almost tipped me. I caught myself on the counter, muttering, figures, even the chairs against me. I looked around the apartment. The microwave clock blinked 12:00 again. I'd reset it 3 times this week, never held, just like everything else. I grabbed the gift box, held it in my palm. The silver watch glinted under the weak light. Expensive, elegant, nothing like me. I thought of Michael wearing it, flashing it to his friends, smirking while I stood outside in the cold. My stomach twisted. I slammed the box shut. The sound echoed like a gunshot in the empty kitchen. I leaned back, breathing heavy. My eyes fell again on the receipt. That scrap of paper was more than a bill. It was proof that the entire evening had been built on me, yet I was the only one shut out. A sudden knock rattled the door. My heart jumped. I wasn't expecting anyone. I shuffled to the door, looked through the peephole, just the landlord's flyer taped there. Rent due first of the month, no exceptions. I ripped it down, crumpled it, tossed it into the trash. Add it to the list, I muttered. Back at the table, I picked up my card. The same card I'd handed over so confidently when I booked the dinner. The same card that gave them their champagne, their candles, their damn lobster tails. I turned it over in my hand, plastic catching the dim light. I whispered, "You think you can erase me, Michael? You think you can laugh while I pay for it?" I felt something new then. Not the hollow ache from earlier, not shame. It was sharper, colder, like steel sliding into place. For the first time all night, I smiled. The phone almost slipped out of my hand, my palms still sweaty from the thought of what I was about to do. I scrolled down to the restaurant's number on the receipt, squinting under the dim lamp. My finger hovered over the call button. For a second I thought, what if they laugh? What if they hang up? But then I remembered Michael's voice in front of everyone. "He's not invited." That was enough. I pressed call. It rang twice before a calm, polished voice answered. "Good evening, Westfield Dining. This is the manager. How may I help you?" I cleared my throat. "This is Robert Thompson. I paid for tonight's private dinner. Reservation under Emily Thompson." There was a pause. Papers shuffled in the background. "Yes, I see that reservation. Everything is in order, sir. How can I assist you?" I tightened my grip on the phone. "Cancel it." Another pause, longer this time. "Excuse me?" "Cancel the dinner, all of it. Food, drinks, the table, it's over. Pull it back." The manager's voice dropped, confused. "Sir, the party is ongoing. The guests are... They are not the guests. I am the guest. I am the client. My card, my money, my signature. Do you understand?" I could hear murmurs in the background, maybe staff asking questions. The manager returned, tone more careful. "Sir, this is highly unusual. The food has been served, drinks poured. The celebration..." "Stop it," I snapped, louder than I meant. My voice bounced in the empty kitchen. "Bring it back. You're serving them on my account, and I'm telling you, the account is closed." Silence stretched on the line. My heart pounded so loud I thought it might drown the words. Finally, the manager spoke again. "Mr. Thompson, if I may, these people, they're family, correct? Perhaps there is some misunderstanding. Family doesn't throw me out of my own dinner," I cut in. My voice trembled, but I held firm. "You want to keep this clean? Then listen. I will cover your staff's time. I will cover their tips personally, but I am not paying another cent for their party. Shut it down." More silence. I thought he might refuse. Then the manager exhaled slowly. "If you insist, sir, I'll need to verify your details again. Please confirm the last 4 digits on the card." I rattled them off, my throat dry. He sighed. "Very well, I'll instruct the staff." His tone carried disbelief, maybe even pity, but I didn't care. Before he hung up, I added quietly, "And manager? Make sure you tell them who ended their night. I want them to know it was me." Click, the line went dead. For a moment, I sat frozen, phone buzzing slightly in my hand. Then I let out a shaky laugh. The first sound all night that didn't taste bitter. The manager's voice still echoed in my head after I hung up. I stared at the phone lying on the table, screen dimming to black. My heart was racing like I'd just run a mile, though I hadn't moved an inch. Then a thought struck me. What if they try to fight it? What if Michael talks his way around the manager, spins some story, and they charge me anyway? The receipt glared at me from under the salt shaker, daring me to blink first. I picked up the phone again and dialed the bank's number. Automated voice, sterile and cold. "Please enter the last 4 digits of your card." Beep, 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 beep. The hold music started. Some tinny jazz loop that made the apartment feel even emptier. The kettle began to whistle, shrill in the silence. I forgot I'd left it half filled earlier. I snatched it off the burner, burned my fingers on the handle, cursed. Water sloshed across the counter, dripping onto the floor. Another mess. Always another mess. Finally, a live voice. "This is Patricia with First National. How can I assist you tonight?" I cleared my throat. "This is Robert Thompson. I made a charge earlier today. I need to know if I can retract it." She asked for the details, the restaurant, the amount. My voice shook as I gave them. "I see the transaction," she said after a pause. "Yes, we can place a stop and initiate a dispute, provided the charge is still pending. Are you saying the service was not rendered?" I laughed bitterly. "Oh, the service was rendered, all right, just not to me." There was a pause, the kind of silence where, the person doesn't want to ask more, and she just said, "I can put a hold. The funds will not clear until reviewed. You'll receive a notice in the mail." My chest loosened a little. "Do it." While she typed, I looked at the watch box still sitting on the table. I almost reached for it, then pulled my hand back. My reflection stared at me from the glossy lid, a tired man with nothing left but scraps of pride. Sir, they hold us in place, Patricia finally said. You'll receive confirmation shortly. Thank you, I murmured. My voice was low but steady. After I hung up, the apartment fell quiet again. The only sound was the drip of water from the counter onto the linoleum. I grabbed a towel, wiped it up, wrung it out in the sink. For a second, I leaned against the counter, head down. The voice in my head whispered, "This is petty. You're no better than Michael if you do this. Just let it go." I closed my eyes, remembering the waiter's words. They told me not to let you in. Remembering the couple's whispers. Isn't that her dad? Guess not. My jaw clenched. Let it go. They wanted me erased, invisible, and for the first time in years I felt visible. I poured the kettle's lukewarm water into a chipped mug, dropped in a tea bag. Steam curled upward, faint but steady. I sat at the table, hands wrapped around the mug. For the first time that night, the heat didn't burn. It felt like control. The tea had gone cold by the time my phone lit up again. I hadn't even sipped it. I just sat there, staring at the steam fade away, listening to the hum of the fridge and the tick of the wall clock. The world felt quiet. Too quiet. Then the screen buzzed across the table. Emily, her name lit up in white letters, bright against the black glass. My chest tightened. For half a second, I thought maybe she was calling to apologize, to say she'd made a mistake. My thumb hovered over the answer buttons, trembling. I slid it green. Her voice hit me fast, sharp, nothing like an apology. "Dad, what the hell did you do?" I leaned back in the chair, let her words wash over me. The kettle clicked in the background as if punctuating her anger. "They're taking the food away," she snapped. "The waiters are clearing the table. Our guests are sitting here embarrassed. Michael is furious, and you have to fix this." I kept my voice calm, almost too calm. "It's not broken, Emily. I paid for a dinner. I chose to end it, that's all. You can't just..." Her voice cracked into static for a moment. "You can't just pull the rug out like that. People are watching. Do you know how humiliating this is for us?" I let the silence stretch. Then I asked, "Meant for you?" She didn't answer right away. I could hear voices in the background, Michael's louder than hers, cursing at someone, probably the manager, glasses clinking as dishes were snatched up, the muffled sound of guests whispering. I took a slow sip from my mug, even though the tea was bitter and lukewarm now. "Emily," I said quietly, tonight you told a waiter I wasn't welcome at your table. Now you're learning what it feels like to be unwelcome at mine." Her breath caught. For a second I thought she might cry. Then the line filled with Michael's voice, booming through her speaker. "Put him on. Put that old man on right now." I chuckled, like he already had his chance, and I ended the call. The phone vibrated again immediately. I flipped it face down on the table, ignoring it. Instead, I leaned back, watching the ceiling lamp flicker once, then steady again. The apartment still smelled faintly of burned coffee, but somehow it didn't bother me. For the first time that day, I felt taller, not erased, not invisible. I whispered to the empty room, "Your move now?" The phone wouldn't stop buzzing. First once, then again, then again. The vibration rattled against the wooden table, made the empty mug tremble beside it. I stared at the screen. Emily. I let it ring out. Silence for 5 seconds. And then it started again. Same name. Same picture from years ago. Her smiling in a graduation gown, a smile she hadn't given me in a long time. I pressed decline, sat back, my chest ached, but I held firm. Not even a minute passed before the phone lit up again. This time, Michael. His smug face from some family photo Emily had forced me to save as a contact. I watched his name flash, my thumb itching to smash the red button. I let it ring until voicemail. Then Emily again. Her voice finally broke through when I answered, more out of exhaustion than anything. "Dad, please, you have to fix this. Everyone's staring. They're laughing at us." Her voice cracked. The sound of clinking glasses and muffled whispers filled the background. My gut twisted. For a moment, I wanted to say, I'll fix it, honey. I'll make it better, like I used to when she scraped her knee. But then Michael's voice cut through, sharp and ugly. Tell him he'll regret this. Tell him we'll make him pay. Emily sobbed, Dad, please. I shut my eyes, gripping the phone tight. My charger cable dangled uselessly from the outlet across the room. The battery icon blinked red at me. 5% left. Figures. Even the damn phone was against me tonight. Emily, I said, finally, voice steady. You made your choice when you told that waiter I didn't belong. Now it's my choice. And I'm done paying for people who don't want me at the table. She gasped like I'd slapped her. Michael shouted something else in the background. I didn't stay to listen. I pressed end. The silence that followed was deafening. Only the low hum of the fridge and the tick of the clock filled the room. The phone screen went black again, a tiny crack glinting across the glass. I whispered to myself, that's one bill I'm not covering anymore. The phone rang again, but this time it wasn't Emily. The number on the screen had no name, just the restaurant's area code. My throat went dry. I almost let it ring out, but some part of me wanted to hear it, to know how deep the chaos had spread. I swiped to answer. Mr. Thompson? A voice smoother now but strained at the edges. The manager. Yes, I said. He took a long breath, the kind you take before delivering bad news. Sir, I need to be frank with you. What you've requested, it's creating a scene. I leaned back, chair creaking under me. Good. Guests are upset, he pressed on. Some have left their seats. The food is half served. The staff is, frankly, they're confused. This isn't standard procedure. I could hear voices behind him, a female voice asking, what do we tell them? Another voice, sharper, Michael's, I realized, muffled but clear enough. Get him on the line right now. He's ruining everything. The manager lowered his tone, almost pleading. Mr. Thompson, perhaps this is a family matter. We don't wish to be in the middle of it. If you could just allow the dinner to continue, I'm sure you can resolve the dispute another way. Resolve. My lips curled. Resolve? They barred me from my own table. Do you understand? I paid for a chair they wouldn't let me sit in. He hesitated. I understand you're upset, sir, but humiliating your daughter in front of her guests, that word snapped something in me. Humiliation, I barked, my voice bouncing off the kitchen walls. You think I don't know what humiliation feels like? I stood in your lobby tonight, gift in hand, while my daughter pretended she didn't hear me, while your staff held out their arm like I was some vagrant off the street. The line went quiet for a moment. Even the hum of my fridge seemed to fade, leaving only my own heavy breathing. From upstairs came a sudden thud. The Patels again shouting, their voices rising in some fresh argument. A door slammed. My neighbor, Mrs. Jenkins, pounded once on her ceiling. At my floor, keep it down, she screeched, muffled through the plaster. I laughed bitterly into the phone. Do you hear that? Even in my own home, I'm told to stay quiet. Well, not tonight. Tonight I'm the one making noise. The manager sighed, the sound of a man cornered. Mr. Thompson, please, the owner is not happy. He's asking me if we should contact authorities. He says this could reflect poorly on the restaurant. I closed my eyes, pinched the bridge of my nose. The only thing reflecting poorly on your restaurant is letting people treat their own father like trash while you serve them champagne on his dime. Another pause. Papers shuffled again. Finally, the manager's voice came back softer. I will honor your request, but Mr. Thompson, but this will not be pleasant for anyone. Not for them, I corrected, voice calm now. For me, it's the first pleasant thing I've had all night. I ended the call before he could answer. The apartment buzzed with silence again. Then, like clockwork, a crash upstairs, a dog barking down the hall, Mrs. Jenkins's TV blaring some game show. The whole building was noise, life, mess, and in the middle of it I felt still, anchored for the first time. I poured myself another glass of water from the tap. Rust flecks swirled in the stream. I drank it anyway, bitter, metallic, real. I whispered to myself, let them stew. Let them taste what it's like to be invisible. The call came in while I was rinsing the mug. The vibration rattled against the counter, skittering like a trapped bug. Michael. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. I wanted to hear his voice break. I swiped. Yeah? There was no hello, just his fury spilling through the line. You old bastard. Do you think this is funny? I dried my hands on the dish towel, slow, deliberate. A little. You humiliated us in front of everyone, he spat. I could hear the clatter of dishes, the low murmur of embarrassed guests. His words came ragged, hot with rage. People are walking out. Do you know how this makes us look? Like people who can't pay their own bill, I said flatly. He cursed. Something heavy slammed down near the phone. Then his tone shifted darker. You think you're clever? You're not. I know people, Thompson. People who can make life very difficult for you. You think your landlord's patient now? You think that little pension of yours is safe? One call, just one, and I'll make sure you're begging on the street. For a second, I froze. The kitchen seemed to tilt. The dripping faucet ticked like a clock in my ear. I almost believed him. Then came the unexpected. His voice cracked into a low laugh. Hell, maybe I'll tell Emily the truth about you. About that night. You think she loves her precious daddy so much? You think she knows who you really are? I gripped the phone tighter, heart slamming. What night? My voice was sharp, but inside I was shaking. He chuckled again, meaner this time. You know what I'm talking about. Or maybe you don't want to remember, but I can make her remember. I can paint whatever picture I want, and she'll believe me. She always does. For a long second, all I heard was my own breathing, ragged and loud. The bastard was bluffing, as I told myself. He had nothing, but the way he said it, so casual, so certain, made the air taste sour. I forced a laugh, even though my throat burned. You think lies make you strong, Michael. All they make you is weak. He snarled. We'll see who's weak when you're out on the street. You're nothing, a relic, and tonight everyone saw it. I didn't hang up. I let the silence sit until he spoke again, impatient. Well, nothing to say. I finally whispered, calm as stone. You're right about one thing, Michael. Everyone saw it tonight. Everyone saw you begging for food on another man's card. That's what they'll remember. And then I ended the call. The apartment went silent except for the faint drip, drip, drip of the faucet. My hands trembled, not from fear, but from something sharper. Rage, cold and clean. I looked at the gift box, still on the table. Without thinking, I hurled it against the wall. The lid popped open, the watch clattering across the floor, ticking faintly in the dark, like a tiny, broken heartbeat. I bent down, picked it up. The glass face was cracked now, a jagged line splitting the dial. I turned it over in my hand and whispered, perfect. The apartment had gone still, except for the crack in the watch face catching the light every time I turned it. I set it down on the table and slumped into the chair by the window. Outside, the street was wet from rain, the asphalt shining under yellow lamps. A group of teenagers passed by, their sneakers splashing through puddles. They laughed too loud, one of them tossing an empty soda can that clattered against the curb. Their voices carried up through the open gap in my window. That kind of laughter, carefree, sharp, the kind Emily used to have before Michael. I watched them until they vanished around the corner. The silence that followed sank into my bones. I caught my own reflection in the window, tired, hunched, face carved deeper by the shadows than I remembered. For the first time all night, a thought crept in that I didn't want to admit. What if I've gone too far? I whispered it low to no one. I took her birthday away. The words tasted bitter. Yeah, what kind of father does that? I closed my eyes and leaned my forehead against the glass. It was cool, almost comforting. Images flickered in my mind. Emily at 8, running up the porch steps, clutching her school art project in both hands, shouting, "Look, Daddy, I made this for you." Her smile had been wide enough to light the whole house. Back then, I would have torn my heart out just to keep that smile. And now, I'd ripped it away myself. My stomach turned. I pushed the chair back, pacing the kitchen, my socks sliding on the linoleum. The fridge clicked on, its hum too loud. I slapped the side of it hard, just to shut it up, but of course it kept running, steady and smug. The voice in my head got louder. You're cruel, you're petty, you're no better than Michael, you're punishing your daughter because she made a mistake, you're killing her night the way she killed yours. I gripped the counter until my knuckles whitened. I almost believed it. My chest hurt, like guilt pressing its full weight down on me. Then, without warning, the memory snapped back into me. The restaurant, the waiter's arm stretched out, blocking my chest. His words, "They ask me not to seat you." The way Emily looked at me for half a second, then turned away like I was a stranger. The couple whispering, "Isn't that her dad?" Guess not. The heat rose up my neck, the sting as real now as it had been then. I slammed my fist on the counter. The tea mug rattled. "Oh no," I growled. "No, damn it, they left me outside. They told the world I wasn't family. That wasn't a mistake, that was a choice." My breath came ragged, but steadier with each word. If they can erase me in public, then I can erase their comfort in public too. That's not cruelty, that's balance. I caught sight of the cracked watch again on the table, split down the middle like the night itself. I picked it up, pressed the cold glass against my palm until it hurt. You don't get to break me and keep smiling. The apartment hummed with noise again, fridge, pipes, faint arguing upstairs. But this time it didn't crush me, it fueled me. I dropped the watch back on the table and whispered, "Not weakness, justice." The call came late, long after I thought the night had settled. I was sitting in the dark, only the glow of the cracked watch face ticking faintly on the table, when the phone lit up again. This time the number wasn't Emily, not Michael. The restaurant again. I let it buzz twice before picking up. "Thompson." My voice came out flat, colder than I felt inside. It was the manager. His tone was different now, more urgent. "Mr. Thompson, the situation is escalating. Guests are demanding answers. Some are threatening to leave reviews, to call the owner. We can't keep clearing plates without explanation. They're insisting we contact you directly." I stayed quiet long enough to hear the nervous shuffle of his papers. Finally I said, "Then explain it to them." He sighed. "Sir, with all due respect, this is spiraling beyond our control. If you want to end this definitively, perhaps you should come in. Make it clear, otherwise it's going to be chaos." I turned to look at the window. Rain was still dripping from the eaves outside, pooling in the street lamp's glow. My reflection stared back at me again, but this time I didn't see the tired man. I saw someone sharper, someone who had been pushed to the edge, and finally stepped forward. "You want me to come in?" I repeated. "It would resolve the confusion," he said quickly, "and frankly, Banquet, it might be the only way to shut this down properly." For a long second, I said nothing. In the silence, the upstairs neighbor flushed his toilet, water rushing through the pipes in my walls, loud, obnoxious. The whole building seemed to conspire to remind me how small my life had become. Then I smiled, just a thin curve of lips. "Fine, I'll come." I ended the call before he could say more. I pulled on my jacket from the back of the chair. It smelled faintly of rain and old fabric, the lining rough against my wrists. I slid my wallet into the pocket, tucked the cracked watch inside as well, the weight of it like a reminder pressed against my ribs. At the door, I paused. The apartment was humming, fridge buzzing, clock ticking, neighbor's TV faint through the wall, same as always. But tonight it felt less like a prison, more like a backdrop, a place I'd step out of and leave behind, at least for a while. I opened the door. The hallway smelled of damp carpet and fried onions from someone's late dinner. My shoes squeaked against the linoleum as I walked. Outside, the night air was cool, damp, carrying the tang of wet asphalt. Puddles mirrored the streetlights, broken into ripples by my footsteps. The city seemed quieter now, like it was holding its breath. I pulled my collar up against the drizzle and whispered to myself, "Let them look me in the eye when the plates disappear." Then I kept walking, each step steadier than the last, the sound of my shoes echoing down the empty block, leading me straight toward the reckoning. The double glass doors were heavier than I remembered. They resisted me at first, like the building itself wanted to keep me out again. But I pushed harder and the hinges gave with a groan. Warm air hit my face. Roasted garlic, charred steak, red wine breathing in wide glasses. For a second it almost pulled me back, almost made me feel like a guest. But then the eyes turned. The host at the stand froze mid-sentence. The chatter in the lobby thinned, replaced by the dull scrape of forks and the hiss of kitchen burners leaking through the walls. I walked forward anyway. My shoes squeaked against the polished tile, each step loud in the sudden hush. Past the lobby, the dining room spread wide, chandeliers glowing gold, linen-covered tables, silverware lined like soldiers, and in the center, their table, long grand, the best in the room. Emily, Michael, their friends, all gathered like royalty. Michael saw me first. His smile cracked, then stiffened. Emily's eyes widened for half a heartbeat, then darted away, searching for anywhere else to land. A guest leaned toward another, whispering too loudly, "Isn't that the father? The one they..." He cut himself short when he saw me looking. I kept walking, my jacket collar still damp from the drizzle outside, my watch heavy in my pocket. One of the waiters stepped into my path, the same one who had barred me before. His hand twitched as if to lift, to block me again. But he didn't. He just shifted nervously, glancing toward the manager at the far end of the room. This time I didn't stop. I brushed past his shoulder, slow and deliberate. "Not tonight," I murmured. My footsteps carried me deeper into the dining room. Conversations sputtered out, leaving only the soft hum of the air conditioner and the clinking of cutlery from some table that hadn't noticed yet. Every eye seemed fixed on me. I reached the edge of their table. The candles flickered, caught in a draft, as if even the fire leaned toward me. Michael pushed his chair back with a screech, standing, puffing himself tall. "What the hell do you think you're doing here?" I didn't answer. Not yet." My gaze slid to Emily. She stared at her wine glass, knuckles white around the stem. For the briefest moment, I thought she might stand too, might say something. But she stayed seated, silent. Behind me, I heard the manager's hurried steps approaching, his voice tense. "Mr. Thompson, please." I lifted the folded receipt from my pocket, held it up between two fingers like a weapon. The ink caught the candlelight. My name. My signature. The whispers swelled louder now. "It's his dinner? Then why did they..." Unbelievable. And for the first time all night, I let myself smile, small, sharp, unshakable. The room didn't breathe for a moment. Then the murmurs began, spreading like a ripple across a pond. Wait, he paid for this? I thought they invited us? Why wouldn't he be at the head of the table? Some guests leaned closer to each other, whispering behind their napkins. Others didn't bother hiding it. Phones came out, screens lighting up as if the scandal was worth capturing. A man across the table, one of Michael's business friends, cleared his throat and said too loudly, "Is this some kind of joke?" The forced laugh that followed died before it reached anyone else's lips. Emily kept her head down, her fork untouched, still pinning a piece of chicken to her plate she hadn't eaten. Michael, though, stepped forward, shoulders squared. "Sit down," he hissed at her, then turned to me. "You don't belong here. You never did." The receipt in my hand crinkled as I tightened my grip. "Belong?" I said evenly. "Every drop of wine, every steak on this table belongs to me." Gasps fluttered through the crowd. One of the younger women at the table muttered, "Oh my God," as if she'd just realized she was in the middle of a play. An older guest leaned toward Emily. "Sweetheart, is this true?" His voice wasn't kind, it was curious, cold. Emily's lips parted, but no words came. Her eyes darted to Michael. The waiter who'd blocked me earlier stepped closer, shifting nervously from foot to foot. Sir, perhaps we should..." He glanced at Michael, then at me. His tray shook slightly in his hands. I need to know who to take orders from," Michael snapped. "From me. Obviously from me." He pounded the table, glasses clinking. But the waiter didn't move. His eyes stayed on me, on the receipt. I lowered my hand just enough for him to read it. "From the client," I said, voice low but carrying. "And you know exactly who that is." The whispers swelled louder. A woman near the end of the table folded her napkin, pushed her chair back. "I didn't come here for a family feud," she muttered, standing. Her husband followed quickly, murmuring apologies to no one in particular. Michael's face reddened. "Sit down," he barked at them, but his words only made the air heavier. More eyes shifted away from him, toward me. The manager finally arrived, chest heaving slightly as if he had rushed. He looked from Michael to Emily, then to me, then back to the receipt still in my hand. His jaw tightened. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice formal, "I believe there's been a misunderstanding. This evening was arranged and paid for by Mr. Robert Thompson." He gestured toward me with a careful hand. The room erupted into murmurs again, sharper this time. Michael's friend muttered, "Unbelievable," while another guest shook his head, whispering, "Embarrassing." Emily's hand trembled on her wineglass. For the first time that night, she looked at me directly. Her eyes were wide, pleading almost, though no sound came out. And in that moment, I realized the shift had begun. The room wasn't hers anymore. It wasn't his. It was mine. The manager's words still hung in the air when the first waiter moved. Hesitant at first, then decisive, he reached across the table and lifted a half-finished plate of pasta right out from under one of Michael's friends. The man blinked up. "Excuse me, I wasn't finished." The waiter shook his head politely. I'm sorry, sir. Dinner service is concluded." Gasps scattered across the table like sparks. Another waiter swept in, plucking glasses of champagne before anyone could protest. The golden liquid caught the light as it tipped into a silver bin. "What the hell are you doing?" Michael roared, shoving his chair back so violently it nearly toppled. "Sit down, put that back." His voice cracked, too loud, too shrill. The whispers surged, now less like curiosity, more like scandalous gossip. "Did you see his face? God, this is humiliating. They threw out the champagne. Can you believe it?" A woman near the middle leaned toward her neighbor, not bothering to lower her voice. "I heard he told the staff his own father wasn't invited. Can you imagine?" Her friend's eyes widened. "No." She shook her head, lips pursed in judgment. "That's cold." Michael slammed his hand on the table. Plates rattled, cutlery clinked. "Stop recording," he barked, pointing at a guest with a phone raised discreetly. Too late, the red recording light glowed. Emily's cheeks burned crimson. She reached for his arm, whispering, "Michael, stop." But he yanked away, sending her wineglass tipping over, red spilling across the linen like blood. The room hissed with murmurs. One man chuckled darkly, muttering just loud enough, "Guess money doesn't buy respect." The waiters kept working, calm, precise, like surgeons dismantling the feast. Shrimp platters lifted, steak knives whisked away. The longer it went, the clearer it became. This wasn't dinner anymore, like it was a demolition. I stood at the edge, watching, my pulse steady now. Every glass poured out, every plate cleared was another stone pulled from the facade they'd built tonight. Michael lunged toward a waiter, grabbing at a plate. "You're not taking this. Put it back." His voice cracked into desperation. The manager stepped forward quickly, blocking him with a firm arm. "Sir, please, this is non-negotiable." Michael's eyes darted around, wild. Guests stared back, some amused, some disgusted, no one on his side. And then someone at the far end whispered exactly what I knew the whole room was thinking. "They're finished." The words spread, soft but sharp, a verdict echoing through the table. Emily sat frozen, staring down at her ruined plate, her lips trembling like she wanted to speak but couldn't find words. And me? For the first time all night, I didn't feel like an outsider. I felt like the judge, and the sentence had just begun. The waiters no longer hesitated. They moved in pairs, one clearing plates, another stripping cutlery. Silver scraped against porcelain as dishes vanished faster than the guests could blink. A waiter leaned across the centerpiece, snatching the roast chicken just as Michael's fork stabbed down. The prongs hit nothing but cloth. "What the—" Michael shot to his feet, face blotchy red. "Put it back. Do you hear me? Put it back." His voice cracked on the last word, high and desperate. No one listened. Another waiter tipped the remaining champagne into a bucket, the fizz hissing as the golden foam died. A woman gasped aloud, clutching her pearls as if she'd witnessed a crime. Someone at the far end chuckled nervously, then quickly masked it with a cough. Emily's hands trembled on her napkin. She pressed it into her lap, folding and unfolding, eyes darting everywhere except at me. Her lips parted once, twice, but no sound came. A guest leaned back in his chair, shaking his head. "I knew something was off," he whispered to his wife. "She didn't even invite her own father. Now this—" His wife's lips pursed in disgust. "Shameful?" Michael pointed at the manager, spit flying. You'll regret this. You'll never work again. I'll. But his voice was drowned out by the clatter of more plates being stacked. The room had shifted. Michael's shouts weren't commands anymore, they were tantrums. And the guests knew it. Chairs scraped back. One couple rose, murmuring apologies to the group, though their eyes avoided Michael entirely. Another man stood, tossing his napkin onto the table. I'm not staying for this circus, he muttered, stalking off toward the door. Phones came up again, screens glowing. Someone was filming openly now. Michael's voice grew shriller. Stop recording, turn that off. But every shout only gave them better footage. Then it happened. The moment that stripped away the last of his dignity. Emily tried to stand to steady him. Michael, please. Her voice wavered. She reached for his sleeve. He shoved her hand off, too hard. Her chair tilted back, legs screeching on the polished floor, and for one awful second, she almost fell. A guest gasped, half rising to help, but Emily caught herself, slumping forward with her hair in her face. The silence that followed was sharper than any shout. Whispers spread like wildfire. He pushed her. Did you see that? God, in front of everyone. Emily's eyes glistened as she sat frozen, unable to look at anyone. Michael stood alone now, panting, fists clenched at his sides, but no one was listening to him anymore. He wasn't a host, he wasn't in control, he was just noise. And around him, the table lay bare. Stripped of food, stripped of pride, stripped of the illusion they had built. I watched the scene unfold, every detail searing into me. Emily's trembling shoulders, Michael's furious but powerless stance, the guests' disgusted glances. This wasn't just dinner anymore, it was their unraveling, and the night wasn't finished yet. The room had gone still, the table lay bare, nothing left but stained linen and empty glasses. Guests hovered awkwardly near their chairs, some already slipping toward the door. Phones glowed faintly in trembling hands. Michael stood red-faced, chest heaving, a man shouting into a void that no longer cared. Emily sat motionless, eyes downcast, her napkin twisted into a knot. I stepped forward into the silence. My shoes clicked softly on the polished floor. Every head turned. The weight of 100 eyes didn't press me down this time. It lifted me. I stopped at the end of the table where once I should have been seated. I rested the crumpled receipt on the stripped linen, smoothed it flat with my palm. The black ink glistened faintly in the candlelight. My name. Then I looked at them. First Emily, then Michael, finally the faces of the guests, wide-eyed and hungry for the final line. My voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner. Tonight, you told the world I wasn't welcome at your table. I let the words hang, the silence after them heavier than stone. So I made sure none of you were welcome at mine. Gasps fluttered around the room. Someone whispered, "My God." Oh. Another covered her mouth. Michael opened his mouth to snap back, but nothing came out. His throat worked, jaw clenching, but no sound dared leave. I turned to Emily. For a moment, the room melted away, and it was just her. My little girl, once so bright, now drowning in shame. Her lips trembled, eyes wet, but still no words. I nodded once. Family is a table with two sides. I showed up for yours. You pushed me out, so now I'm done setting places. A hush fell deeper, thick and suffocating. Even the chandelier seemed to hum with it. Then, slowly, I reached into my pocket. I pulled out an envelope. Cash I'd withdrawn that morning for tips. I set it on the table beside the receipt. For the staff, I said. They did their job better than most here tonight. The waiters froze mid-step, glancing at one another, then at me. The manager gave a single stiff nod. Respectful. I turned back one last time. Michael's face was purple with rage, Emily's pale with shame, the guests caught between scandal and awe. I gave them a thin smile. Dinner's over. And with that I stepped back, the echo of my words lingering like smoke. I didn't wait for applause. There was none coming, only the heavy silence of people who didn't know where to look. That silence was louder than any cheer. I slid the receipt closer to the manager, tapped the envelope with my finger, and turned away. My shoes struck the polished floor, sharp, steady, like a drum beat leading me out. Behind me, chaos resumed, Michael barking orders no one obeyed, guests murmuring, chairs scraping as more people slipped away. Emily's muffled sob caught my ear for a heartbeat, but I didn't turn. Not this time. The lobby smelled different now, not garlic and wine, but sweat and nerves. The host avoided my eyes, staring too hard at his podium. I pushed through the heavy glass doors, and the night air swallowed me whole. Cool, damp, clean. The drizzle had eased into a mist, tiny drops clinging to my jacket, my hair. Streetlights turned the wet pavement into rivers of gold and silver. Each step splashed softly, a rhythm that matched the slowing of my heartbeat. I stopped at the curb, inhaled deep. The air tasted like rain and exhaust, sharp and alive. For the first time in years, it didn't choke me. Behind the glass, the restaurant still glowed. Warm, golden, false. A box of people tearing each other apart, but without me in it. For once, I wasn't the one shut out in the cold. I was the one who walked away. A taxi idled nearby, its engine humming. The driver leaned out, called, "Oi, need a ride?" His accent was thick, words clipped. I shook my head. Not tonight. He shrugged and pulled off, taillights fading into the wet dark. I slipped my hand into my pocket, fingers brushing the cracked watch. I pulled it out, held it under the street lamp. The split glass face gleamed, the hands still ticking despite the scar. Broken, but working, just like me. I laughed once, low, raw, the sound puffing white in the cool night. Not bitter, not hollow, lighter. The city moved on around me. Cars hissing through puddles, a dog barking in the distance, a neon sign buzzing faintly across the street. Ordinary noises, but tonight they sounded like music. I whispered to the empty air. For the first time in years, I wasn't the one left outside. Then I turned my back to the restaurant and walked into the night. Each step steady, each breath lighter. Dinner was over. The sun was already up when I opened my eyes. No alarm, no rush, just the pale light slipping through the blinds, dust motes floating like they had nowhere better to be. The apartment smelled faintly of coffee, though the pot was empty. Burnt grounds from last night still clung to the filter. I didn't bother washing it yet. Instead, I pulled a pan from the cupboard, fried 2 eggs in butter, and let the sizzle fill the kitchen. Simple. Mine. The phone buzzed on the counter. Emily. I watched it vibrate, the name flashing over and over. I let it ring until the screen went dark again. I sat at the table with my plate. A slice of toast balanced on the edge. The first bite crunched loud in the quiet. Outside, kids were arguing over a basketball, their voices bouncing off the brick walls. A neighbor's radio leaked a country song through the thin plaster. It all felt more alive than the night before. Another buzz, this time a message. "Dad, please call me." I chewed slowly, wiped my fingers on a napkin, and set the phone face down. At the door, I heard movement. Mrs. Jenkins fumbling with her keys, muttering at the lock. I stepped out just as she cursed under her breath. She looked up, startled. "Oh, morning, Robert." Her eyes narrowed, sly. "Heard there was a scene downtown last night. Was that you?" I smiled faintly, tucking my hands in my jacket. "Depends who you ask." She chuckled, shaking her head. "Well, whatever it was, they'll be talking about it for weeks." She finally twisted the key, the lock clicking. "Good for you standing up for yourself." I nodded once. "Yeah, about time." Back inside, the phone buzzed again. Michael this time. I didn't even look twice. I rinsed the plate, set it on the drying rack, and opened the window wider. Fresh air slipped in, carrying the smell of rain-soaked asphalt and the bakery down the block. For the first time in a long time, I felt hungry for the day. The bakery smell drifted stronger by noon. Warm bread, sugar crusts. I stood by the window with a cup of fresh coffee, steam curling into the cool air. The phone buzzed again. Unknown number this time. I let it run a few seconds before answering. "Mr. Thompson?" A familiar voice, the restaurant manager. "Yes." He cleared his throat, professional but softer than before. "I wanted to thank you. The envelope you left, generous. My staff, well, they've never seen anything like that." I sipped the coffee. "They earned it. They treated me like a person." Silence stretched a beat. Then he said carefully, "A bit. As for the other matter, let's just say the owners don't want their establishment tied to last night's drama. The videos already hit social media. People are talking. A laugh slipped out of me, rough, unexpected. I'll let them. He didn't argue, just murmured, "Have a good day, sir," before hanging up. I set the phone down. It buzzed again immediately. Emily. I stared at her name until it blurred. Then I answered, against my better judgment. Her voice was small, broken. "Dad, please, I didn't think it'd go like that." I leaned on the counter, watching a crack in the tile that had been there since I moved in. "You told a stranger I wasn't family, Emily. That wasn't a mistake. That was clear. I was just," her words tangled, frantic. "Michael said it was supposed to. Dad, I'm sorry." Her voice wavered, and for a second it almost reached me. Almost. I let the silence stretch, the tick of the wall clock filling the space. Finally I said, "Some things you can't take back. Last night was one of them." "Dad," I ended the call. The phone buzzed again almost instantly, but I turned it face down. I'd heard enough. Across the hall, kids were running, their laughter echoing like bright bells. Life kept moving, and for once I wasn't chasing after it. The next day I walked to the corner store. Nothing special, just a loaf of bread, some butter, a pack of coffee filters, the kind of trip I'd made 100 times. The bell over the door jingled. The air smelled of old wood and fresh pastries. The clerk, a young kid with tired eyes, nodded at me. "Morning." "Morning," I said back. My voice sounded lighter, even to me. In the aisle, I passed a mother scolding her son for grabbing candy. She caught my eye, embarrassed, and I just smiled. Life was still messy, still noisy, but it wasn't pressing down on me anymore. At the counter, I pulled a few bills from my wallet. The cracked watch ticked against my wrist as I moved. Broken, but steady. The kid bagged my things and said, "Have a good one, sir." "You too." Outside, the air smelled faintly of rain again. Puddles still lingered in the street, reflecting the sky. I paused, watching them ripple with each passing car. The phone buzzed once more in my pocket. I didn't pull it out, not this time. Instead, I kept walking, bread under my arm, the city humming around me. For the first time in years, every step felt like my own. And as I turned the corner, I thought, family is a table with two sides. If one side pushes you out, you have the right to take your chair with you.